Hi there, and welcome to the Next.io Spotlight, where we are looking at what it takes to thrive in 25. That's right, we're going to look to the year ahead. We're going to look at what you can do with your marketing tech, and we are absolutely delighted at Next.io to have the wonderful founder and CEO of Optimove join us once again. Welcome to the Spotlight, Pini Yakuel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ocean. Thank you for having me again.
Great to have you back as always. Now tell us, I know that you're a big basketball fan and, we might come on to this a bit later, but tell us, what was 2024 like for you in terms of your love of basketball?
Yeah, I think the new season kicked off with great excitement, and what we're seeing is that the NBA at least is very competitive, which is how this league is built, right? It's built in a way that's supposed to make it always even up the teams. And on the West, you got, I think, like 8 teams over 500. So it's very exciting. They're doing a really good job.
Phenomenal. Glad to hear that. Okay. And I guess 25, it's all to play for. Now, speaking of which, you are very kindly joining us to give us some thoughts about how to thrive in 25. So let's, before we dive into the more specific points, from a bird's eye view, how would you characterize the next 12 months in marketing?
Yeah, so I think for us, we are really obsessing about this notion of the positionless marketer, basically a marketer that can be everything and do everything. And obviously, this is supercharged by the AI revolution. So this idea of emphasizing skills and acquiring more and more skills, and then being able to get away from the assembly-like shackles of producing a campaign or producing a piece of work, where you have to wait for different experts or different types of service providers, whether it's in design or in data or in administration. So just having the power of getting more stuff done by yourself, we feel like this is the future of work in general, and obviously this applies to marketing as well.
Phenomenal. I love it. That's great. So it's not just about the tech. I mean, the tech is moving fast. We got AI, we got all this cool stuff happening, but it's about the mindset. It's about being adaptable and learning to have that kind of freedom and power, and being empowered by being positionless. So we are going to come back to that in a bit. I think it's a fascinating concept, and you actually came up with the concept as was covered by one of our previous Next.io Spotlight webinars. So folks, if you haven't seen that, I strongly recommend you go back and watch the archives. But before we crack on, I would love to get you just to cast your mind back, if you will, and let's have a look at some things that marketers got right in 2024 and got wrong. So, what's one thing that marketers got really, really right in 2024?
I think the curiosity around AI and the attempts of using AI more and more in, visual assets production, in the ability to write better, in the ability to basically scale marketing operations with further use of AI and deepening the AI investments. I think a lot of organizations were very curious, and they're doing more and more in the field. So I think that's definitely a move in the right direction, and that's positive.
Awesome. Okay. And now here's your chance to, tell us what grinds your gears. What's one thing that you saw during the past year that marketers just get wrong all the time?
I think what is still basically, and again, it goes back to my previous point. I think what we're still missing, I think they're looking at AI as a short-term fix to one problem or one type of a problem. And I think mostly we need to look at it in terms of each individual. How can it enhance you and supercharge your capabilities based on what you're given by, your parents, DNA, God, however you want to call it, and how can you get much, much better with AI to become more versatile, right? And once you're more versatile, you can serve your organization, your position, your job, your role in a much, much better way. That's what I'm trying to do on a day-to-day basis. So that's the exciting thing. And I think still a lot of people are not looking at it like that. They're looking at it like, okay, there's this one task which is very daunting. How can I automate it? How can I get rid of it? But what about you? How can you be more versatile? How can you do things that you never did before? Maybe a little bit of design, maybe a little bit of data analysis, maybe a little bit of writing, maybe a little bit of administration. How can you do more things and get more, like close an entire loop of a task yourself, completely yourself, to save time and save the reliance on other departments. That's basically what buys you speed. That basically what buys you extreme execution, and that ultimately what can drive results.
Right. And yeah, strong agree there. So not only are these positionless marketers empowering the company and doing better work and doing more interesting and varied work, but they're also, it's kind of an investment in yourself in terms of that growth mindset and being a real asset to whatever company you work for. Now, talk to us a bit about this concept of the positionless marketer. I mean, where did it come from? We mentioned basketball at the beginning of the webinar. I think it's quite instructive to get your thought process behind this.
Right. So oddly enough, I mean, I came to that through kind of like my love for basketball and kind of like the revolution that happened in basketball, where in the past basketball players would have 5 different positions, and you would typically stay within your position. As a point guard, you would distribute, you would pass a lot, you would organize the offense, you would be basically the floor general. As an example, as a center, you would rim protect, you would grab a lot of rebounds, you would play post-up basketball, but you would never shoot threes, as an example. You would never run the floor. Your handling skills were typically not as good. And today, basically, modern basketball players, they do everything, like every position. The center position, the center can pull outside, shoot threes. He can basically beat you with a dribble. Some centers run the floor. Point guards, some of them are not necessarily, the offense doesn't necessarily go through them. You can look at like Nikola Jokic, where the entire offense basically goes through him, and he's the main assist generator and he's the main passer, but he's not a point guard. So, and you saw in basketball how it completely changed the game and made the game more efficient. Obviously, it's a competitive sport, so everybody needs to adapt. What's really cool that I recently discovered is it also exists in football, right? So in football, it's called total football. This was invented by the Dutch national team, Johan Cruyff. So if you remember them kind of like reaching the finals against Germany in the 70s, and it was a very interesting team. Again, positions were not set. The defenders would attack. The strikers would defend. You were encouraged to basically move away from your position and do more, and the positions would be swapped. And then basically Johan Cruyff became the head coach of Barcelona, and he basically coached Barcelona in the same way, like this beautiful Barcelona football, which is like tiki-taki, like this constant movement, changing of roles. And who was one of the players under Johan Cruyff? Pep Guardiola.
Wow.
And then Pep Guardiola was the main coach that kept on winning and winning and winning. And so this whole revolution of in football is something called total football, which is exactly like positionless basketball. So it's everywhere, right? So the notion is that we got to have positions, because usually to get something accomplished, which is something that is organized across a big team, that requires coordination and requires multiple skills, we typically tend to divide it, and we say, like an assembly line, right? You're gonna sand the wood, and you're gonna paint the wood, right? Or you're gonna cut the wood, right? And everybody does something else until you eventually get a chair or a piece of furniture being manufactured. And same in medicine, right? In medicine, you have your heart expert and your ENT, and you have your pediatrician. And so everything is a different field, right? So in order to be really good at ear, nose, throat, you got to be an expert at it, right? Because it's a different system.
Yeah, but this is great, because you're really explaining how agile the modern marketers need to be. And this is your concept of the positionless marketer, doing total marketing, if you like. I mean, where do you see this going? Because this is an amazing trend that you identified, and even the concept just empowers people to do so much and have better careers. How do you see it going?
I think it's going to happen in every field, right?
Yeah.
So marketing is one of them. So I just mentioned medicine, right? Today, basically, a lot of, there's even, I saw like on the news that ChatGPT would do a really good job diagnosing a patient and coming up with the right solution. And the doctors looked at it and they say, yeah, that's exactly what I would do. It's exactly what I would recommend. So so this notion of having an assembly line to get some kind of a piece of work or solve some kind of a problem, that's something that it's a necessary evil. We had to do it. Now, when you're able to, when one person can do more than one thing, right? Then all of a sudden, you're not paying a lot of the prices that come with the assembly line, right? You don't have to wait a lot. You don't pay the price of coordination and miscommunication. You don't pay the price of frustration among the teams. And if you think about it, kind of like that's in many ways that's how startups are built, right? So I'm the founder of a startup. We're much bigger than a startup today, but I remember like I had to do everything, right? I would do finance and I would do sales and I would think about what we're going to put on our website. So it's marketing, and then you sit with engineers and anything. So I was basically positionless, right? The founder in startups is always positionless. So I think in marketing, again, to produce a piece of work, the more team members of the marketing department can become more versatile, agile, the more positionless they can be. And with AI and with solutions like Optimove, you can definitely do that because we democratize, we give you data power, we give you creative power, we give you optimization power. So with those three powers, you can get a lot more things done yourself without going outside and asking for the aid of other departments. And when that happens, you're fast and your results are going to be much, much better.
Right. And how do you see AI? Let's kind of double click on this, focus of marketing. How do you see that AI can really reshape the speed and the scale at which really effective marketing campaigns are deployed?
So it's exactly with that notion of enhancing a team member that was only doing data analysis, but now that team member can do some writing, right? So if I produced a beautiful piece of analysis and now I want to write a narrative around it, but I'm not a good writer, right? But I understand the essence, like the main insights that come out of this report. So I can use Gen AI to help me write a narrative around my analysis and do a pretty good job at it. Now, when I do it by myself, I'm doing both the analysis and the writing. I'm not asking another person to help. So I'm not asking another department to prioritize my task over other tasks. Then I'm not waiting for a week for that thing to get done. Maybe that thing gets done wrongly, and then I don't have to go back and forth with that person. And then it's much, much faster. So I can bring something into production at a high quality. Now, don't get me wrong. In some instances, if you need to write prose and you need to write much, much better, then yes, a professional writer will be better than me, right? The data guy that's now writing a narrative, or you can use the Stability AI or different AI tools to generate visual assets. Now you need to get good at prompting. But of course, a professional designer is going to do it better. But do we need a professional designer for every piece of work we do? So that becomes something we do, but we access the deep professionals on a much lower frequency.
Nice. And does this kind of feed the other way around? Say if we're using Gen AI to make some assets, that then you'd have human in the loop to kind of oversee, to make sure the quality control is really up to scratch.
100%. Yeah. The quality control needs to be there, and everything I'm saying is, it's already happening, but it's happening at a small scale, right? So definitely the companies still need to understand how to do it and how to write and how to be on brand with the message and with the visual assets and with the production. And so there's a lot of things that can hinder, positionless marketing from exploiting its full potential, but I think it's definitely where it's going.
Phenomenal, right? So you're talking about a lot of new power that's been given to the positionless marketer, things like data, control of the data, things like control of the creativity, and also things like optimization. So you're optimizing time, you're optimizing campaigns, you're optimizing how things are deployed. And obviously this all kind of feeds back to the fiscal area of things. Things are going to be done more efficiently, more cost effectively. Do you think this will change how companies are looking at marketing tools in terms of getting more bang for the buck?
Yes, 100%. I think, and we've seen recently that due to the economic, let's call it downturn that we're experiencing in the last 2 years, we have seen kind of like marketing budgets go down. So typically, marketing budgets used to be around 11 or 11.5% of a company's revenue. That was the average, and now it went down to 8. So it's a Gartner research. You can check it out. And so people are spending less. Because they're spending less, they want one tool that can do more things, right? So definitely, we in Optimove, we invest a lot to make sure that our tool and our platform would be able to address more challenges. That's why kind of like we've made the acquisition of Graphite to handle personalization, recommendation in gaming. So we've added that. We've added mobile marketing, and now we're looking at adding more capabilities to our stack. We're developing we've developed a promo engine. So we're developing a lot more things to make sure that our platform is extensive enough. So when companies engage with us, they can actually have one solution to do everything for them. And at the same time, they're increasing efficiency, and they're also reducing costs. Now, it also ties well with positionless marketing, right? Because if you can do more things in one tool, and you can do that within one team, right? And again, you don't have to go through this assembly line and go through all of these different stations of work, then you unlock much more creativity. So we are making sure that within our platform, every piece of capability that we talk about is basically infused by Gen AI and by machine learning to make sure that you can get the insights to get to know your customers with data power. And you can build those visual assets and creatives and copy with creative power. And you can analyze your campaigns and see how they self-optimize with machine learning, with optimization power, and tweak kind of like the parameters of the experiment. So it's a lot of fun. I think kind of like to be a marketer today, you can actually kind of like dabble with many fields. You're kind of like, people are becoming more like Leo da Vinci. So it's like Renaissance. It's the age of Renaissance, right? It's like we are all becoming Renaissance people.
I love it. And from this palette, the Renaissance palette, the Renaissance marketer, talk to us about the role of zero-party data, because I believe this is something you're very focused on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so zero-party data is basically the data that you collect directly from customers by asking them a question, right? So it's all these different types of forms and quizzes and questionnaires and things of that nature. And that typically ties very nicely with gamification. So the nice thing about it is that you can basically ask customers to tell you what they think about something. And then you can store that data in the databases, and then you can use that data to carve out better strategies to communicate with your customers, find more interesting segments of customers, and even at times improve the accuracy of your predictive models. Usually what you rely on is like first-party data, which is mostly kind of like the transactional data, everything kind of like all of the financial transactions that go between a customer and a brand. And then also the behavioral data, right? How the customer is using my product, how the customer is browsing my website, how the customer is using my app. Those are the two main data sources that we typically get. With zero party, you can ask them a question, right? Hey, did you like this? Did you like this new thing that I did last month? Now, the reason it's tied with gamification is because you want to entice the customer or persuade the customer to actually answer those questions. So how do you do it? You do it in the form of a game. So it's kind of like a quiz or a trivia game, or it's kind of like maybe a puzzle, so gamification comes into play when you're trying to increase engagement. And the two are tightly connected. So we are also very deep kind of like into those fields today as well.
Right. And it really sounds like this is, AI and Gen AI is opening up a revolution for marketers, and we can really look at so many different elements with just a blank canvas. So you just spoke about zero-party data. Talk to us a bit about the focus on retention, because arguably, holding on to those existing customers can be so powerful. But how do you go about it the right way? And do you think AI has a role in this?
Interesting. So, interesting if AI has a role in it. I think so. This is like a very long age discussion. Retention versus acquisition.
Yeah.
There's this thing that exists out there that like it costs you 5 times more to acquire a new customer versus keeping an existing one. It turns out that there's no real study that did that. Like it's kind of like a meme that went viral and became a reality. But of course, it's very natural to believe that if you have somebody that's already engaging with you and you can talk to them, it's easier to keep them. In the past, especially when the when the economy was booming stronger, everything was about more and more about acquisition. With the growth of Google and Facebook and all of those platforms and the ad platforms and social media, everything exploded. But over the past few years, people have started to realize that like sometimes they're buying the same customer over and over and over again. And it depends on the industry. Some industries are still very much kind of like the social games industry, right? They call this UA, user acquisition, and they're still kind of like spending a ton on UA on the mobile platforms. But definitely there's been a shift towards like a much more balanced mindset when it comes to acquisition. So the budgets are smaller, they're more calculated. There's a lot of tools out there, and we help some of our customers do it as well. So basically buy media and buy customers based on lifetime value and not based on the first session or the first game or the first purchase. So yeah, so I think it's at a good kind of like well balanced place today.
Nice. And, you're talking about making things very compelling for existing customers and making things fun and, looking at innovative business models such as the CLV, which is just fantastic. And talk to us a bit about the power of gamification. Where does this fit into the world of the marketing tools that you supply to this sector? Because there's a lot of very fun things that many of our viewers today might need to know about.
Right. So I think gamification is obviously kind of like I think there's a ton of there's been some hype about gamification for quite some time. It hasn't really materialized to its full potential. So people still say that gamification is a $2 billion industry. And do you apply it in HR? Do you apply it in call centers? Do you apply it in marketing? Right? There's lots of studies like that. I think that like in marketing, when we're trying to create engagement with customers and have them engage with us, then gamification can be very powerful. I'll give a very simple example. You can send a customer like a birthday campaign. Hey, it's your birthday. Here's like 10% off or like 20% match-up bonus, or here's something that I'm going to give you. Or say, hey, Ocean, happy birthday.
Yay.
Play a game and find out what you want for your birthday.
Nice.
Okay, so now I'm not telling you got the 20% match-up bonus or the 50% match-up bonus. I'm telling you, here's a scratch card. Why don't you scratch this and find out what you got? Or here's play this nice bubble game, and the more you score, your match-up bonus is going to be higher, right? So I'm kind of like introducing this little bit of a skill element or a luck element into how much you're going to win. So there's a bit more. So now that's probably a better birthday campaign, right? So these are nice ways to use gamification.
Nice. Okay, so listen, we've had a deep dive and we've double clicked onto all of these kind of important trends and techniques and some of the tools that Optimove specifically has under the hood. So that's been utterly fascinating, but let's zoom out a bit. And I would love to get your take on, some tips for marketers on how to thrive in 25. So what would you say is one thing that marketers should do to thrive next year?
So I'm sorry to I may sound a little bit like a broken record, but at least the message is going to come across. I think marketers should explore AI technologies, but mostly with the mindset and the lens of enhancing their capabilities, making sure they become more versatile, more agile as marketers, and just have more capabilities. So try to see if you can design some visual assets yourself. Try to see if you can write better. Try to see if you can analyze data better. Try to see if you can use a system or a piece of tech that you didn't know how to use before. you can use it better or faster. So because all of these tools today, they have like what we've introduced is in Optimove, we have an AI agent called OptiGenie, where it's basically an Ask Me Anything type of AI. But one of the cool things about it is we put it on top of our academy and our developers hub. So when you ask it a question, how to do something in Optimove, so in the past you had to go through the training and you had to go through different video tutorials. And you can obviously kind of like try to figure it out yourself from the product, but some things are a little bit harder to understand. And today you can just ask the AI, hey, how do I build a new stream in Optimove? It's going to tell you, go over there, click this, do this, remember not to do this. So it basically reads the academy and generates a response, which is based on what your question. So all of a sudden, it's much easier to use Optimove, and it's much easier to use a lot of other tools. So just try to explore that, make yourself positionless, make yourself more versatile. You'll improve your career, and also the results for your company will be better.
Absolutely. Fantastic advice there, Pini. Thank you very much. So I've got one final question. The clock is ticking, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. What is your advice for marketers who are struggling to balance creativity with technology?
I believe that I think that the two can basically complement one another. So in many cases, it feels like it's one on the expense of the other, but I don't think that's the case. I think if you take the time to understand a piece of technology and understand what it does and how it works, it can actually improve your creativity, because you can understand the art of the possible around that specific problem, and ultimately kind of like get more creative.
I love it. Okay, embrace the art of the possible, embrace AI, Gen AI, keep the humans in the loop, and above all, be positionless to thrive in 25. So thank you so much for joining us on the Next.io Spotlight, Pini Yakuel from Optimove.
Thank you, Ocean.
Folks, in the Next.io community, we hope you've enjoyed this series of webinars with the lovely team at Optimove. We hope you've learned as much as I learned, and we really hope to see you deploying it over the next year. Don't forget to visit optimove.com and do reach out to Pini and the team if you'd like more information. We will see you next time. Have a great 2025. We hope you thrive.